بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم خذ من أموالهم صدقة تطهرهم وتزكيهم بها وصل عليهم إن صلاتك سكن لهم والله سميع عليم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla said, خذ من أموالهم صدقة تطهرهم وتزكيهم بها وصلي عليهم. Take from their money صدقة, which is charity, which is the zakah. تطهرهم وتزكيهم بها. So Allah Azza wa Jalla obliged the zakah. Can obligatory charity zakah replace banks and central banks? And third question, can you prove to a rich person that obligatory zakah is best for his financial health? Presentation, we have these questions. Allah Almighty made obligatory zakah and banned interest. Khalifa Abu Bakr actually forced people to pay zakah, and those who refused to pay zakah, he did send an army to fight them. How would you take that in environment now? Can you justify sending an army to force people to pay zakah?
I think it depends on the economic situation of the country at hand and the country's reliance on the collection of zakat money for social stability and economic stability. Because without that economic import, that financial import, the situation could be far worse. So it's up to the leaders to decide whether or on how to actually implement it.
So can a Muslim leader force people to pray?
No, I think salah is something completely different to zakat here.
Right, okay.
Salah is very individual.
How would you convince somebody in Britain who's not a Muslim, is secularist, that you have the right to use arms to force people to pay zakah?
Yeah, so I think it comes back down to what I said earlier. In the same way, if we didn't pay tax in the country, if everybody decided to not pay income tax, then I think our own government could take a very strong response against its citizenry.
That's very good argument. I actually bring that to my student, that if you refuse to pay tax, the government will summon you to the police station or will send somebody to collect the zakah. If you refuse, they will force you. If you start fighting them, they will fight you back and take the zakah, whether the tax, whether you like it or not.
Correct. And I think it's a lot deeper than that, Dr. Isam. If you don't align yourself with the economic structure of the prevailing, let's say, prevailing powers, then those prevailing powers would be willing to remove you or remove your government, and that has been quite evident in the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years.
Yes,
most recently.
That leads to the next question. Why states need obligatory charity zakah, which you mentioned at the beginning of the talk? The social structure, the services, the education, and will the rich benefit from paying obligatory zakah? That's another one. Now, if we go to these things I put here, why we need tax and obligatory charity, which you mentioned yourself, feed the poor, disabled, disadvantaged, spend on education, defense, health, social care, policing, build infrastructure, protect environment and wildlife, blah, blah, all this. And then protect and grow the economy, reduce migration of wealth to the rich, and reduce economic migrant. Why we need tax and zakah. If we go back, the second one, what's the difference between tax and zakah? Why we need zakah? If we have already a system to collect tax, why we need zakah?
Well, zakat is an obligation from Allah directly. And there
We're
are
talking
8
to a
categories.
secular, they're talking to an atheist, we're talking to a communist.
Okay.
So why we need zakah, not tax? Probably will end charging tax anyway, but why you need zakah? What's the difference between zakah and tax? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, carry on.
No, I think this is quite clear. From a Muslim point of view, we merely have to be quite candid and say this is an obligation from our Rabb, and our Rabb says that we are obligated unto God to take a portion of our wealth, 2.5%, to fund the poor, the needy, the administrative zakat, free slaves, help those in debt, help the traveler, help those who have come into Islam.
Yeah, you need to show that it's more advantaged than tax. How would you prove that zakah is more helpful to people than tax? The rich, the rich now. I'm talking about the rich, not only the poor. Everybody say the poor need and things, but the rich who are going to give the zakah, they need to be convinced it's better for their financial health. I'll show you this graph, which is different between zakah. Tax pay as you earn. Obviously, somebody find ways to avoid paying zakah. And you could have £100 billion in saving, but you pay no tax if you don't earn anything on that year.
Yeah.
And also zakah could have no money, but still pay VAT and TV license and road tax and council tax, while you are actually even unemployed pay. Have no choice but to pay VAT and TV license and road tax and so on. While obligatory zakah pay from the surplus after you saved it for a year. So everything you need from your saving you use. If it stays for a year, whatever stay beyond the year, you pay zakah. So you don't pay as you earn, you pay as you spend, as you save. And obligatory zakah also increases disposable money, because the poor will have more disposable money. What they will do with it? They will go and buy from the rich, and they make the rich richer. Yeah, there will be more market, more velocity in the money. The pound will be changed. Instead of 7 times average, it will be changed 20 times, 30 times. You have a lot of people with money, and they go around and buy and do the shopping and spend the money. So companies will work and they produce more profit to their owners. Obligatory zakah take static capital from being static and invested to produce more and reduce prices. Like the research I looked into in Australia, if you have $10 billion, you want to give it to the very rich or the very poor. If you give it to 10 billionaires, each one will get 1 billion. Added to his 200 billion or 40 billion makes not much difference. He's already have 10 billion, 20 billion sitting doing nothing. He will go and buy a yacht or buy a plane or something. If you give the 10 billion to 1,000 entrepreneur, each one will get $1 million or $10 million, and he will start. One will start fish farm, one will start chicken farm, one will start planting more crops, and the values will drop. There will be more in the market. Now inflation will disappear because you have more entrepreneur producing. So you make use of the static money. When they give us the static money to Zakat, we give it to the needy and entrepreneur and business who are not progressing, blah, blah, blah. And then you make more money for the country. So you utilize the static money and reduce the rich-poor gap, not by dropping the rich, but by lifting the poor. In this graph, the tax, will tax reduce your wealth? If you are poor, yes, because you keep paying from your tax and the value of your money keep dropping with the inflation. The rich, they are out of the money. They always have, they buy assets with their money. They buy shares, they buy commodities. They always convert their money, and their money stays high in value. While when you look into the poor, their money come from their wages and their pension and their saving, and they get even poorer. While in Zakat, the rich will get richer because there's more disposable money here. Buying from the rich, they get richer, and the poor and the middle class get richer because they have always money coming back to them, utilizing the money, and the money always being used, and the velocity of the money increase and the production increase. So they all get better. The rich get richer, and the poor get richer. So that's the philosophy in Islam. This is why it's Zakah. Zakah is to increase tanmiyah, increase the value of things, increase the amount of money, increase obviously the moral value, and increase the cleanliness in the heart, but you increase the cleanliness in the money, and you increase the money itself with Zakah. The money will increase in the hand of the rich and the poor. So if you go back to this slide, the third one, we need to do something about the migration of money. Have you heard of that? Obviously, you are one of those who is interested in the economy. What would you say the migration of money, of wealth?
Yeah, so do you mean here moving from one particular country to another country?
No.
Or the circulation of money?
It's true that wealth accumulation often follows certain pattern, and those with access to resources can leverage them for financial growth. Once they are credit worthy, you can borrow money and invest and buy cheap auctioned assets or companies and win profitable contracts and things. So the money brings money. If you have more money, you get more money. Always the money migrate to the rich. This is why Allah wants to bring it back to the poor. But that's from the time of Adam until now. To always migrate to those who have more skills, more ability, more credit worthy, more reputation. And they hire top accountants and solicitors and reduce tax charges and defend their wealth, and they act like magnet to wealth. So the migration has to be reversed. So how people deal with the migration of money? Who create money from nothing? That's the next one. Who create money from nothing? So usually those who have free resources, like, the Gulf have the petrol coming for free, and they get money for nothing. Or those who have skills, they get money. The more skills you have, the more money. But you're utilizing your skills, and you have 24/7. You don't have more than that. You have limited time to make use of your skills. Those who inherit capitals usually, or assets, they might increase their income. And those who have reputation, usually those who have reputation like banks and financial institutions, they lend you money they don't have. They call it fractional reserve banking. If they have £100, they can lend £1,000. Now even they reduced it. If they have £2, they can lend £1,000. But if I write you a check with a check on the top written the Bank of Ghanam, and I sign it and they say, this is £10,000, give me your car, you wouldn't, would you? Just ignore it. But if I bring you a bank draft with the name name of HSBC on it, you will definitely say, yeah, you are. You take that bank draft and you can cash it. But at the end of the day, none of the banks have money. When the bank go from this bank to that bank, this bank to that bank, at the end of the day, If they don't break even, they borrow money from each other to break even. But they didn't actually have the money. And the 6 governments who control the international reserve currency, they can produce money from nothing because they know their money is trusted and taken. Like every day, the world have to borrow or create or have enough dollars to buy. There's 100 million barrels of oil every day sold, and you need $85 per barrel. So yeah, there's a lot of people who go and buy the dollar or buy the sterling or buy the euro. The euro 20% of the reserve currency. The sterling is 5%, and the same the Japanese yen, and now the Chinese yuan came into reserve, but it's only 0.75. It's not even 1%. But still, the Swiss franc stronger than the yuan. Companies can issue bonds and sell it and get money from nothing. By the fact they have the company, they dilute the value of the company, but they get money instantly. When this guy wanted to sell coffee, he wanted 1 billion money, and he managed to collect it in one day. And he sold shares. So he managed to get 1 billion from nothing because he didn't actually sell, he just created the bonds. And the same, the credit companies, every day there's $4.3 trillion created by using the Visa and Access. When you go and buy on credit, you create money from nothing. You take home your shopping, you didn't pay for it, and the bank didn't pay for it. And you go and pay them within 25 days, or they charge you interest. They didn't actually have the money, they guarantee, but they are high reputed. The reputation is high. So how people manage to get the money back, to address that migration of money, how they get it back? What do? They actually, like United Nations, they have, not the IMF is certain countries, you put money in it, but they spend money on WHO and UNESCO and UNICEF and UNHCR and the World Fund. Other people who have no government and they can't get the money from these organizations, they lead wars. That's what Putin did, becoming poor, or social unrest, or crimes and the mafia, or they go into corruption and military coup, or they nationalize the rich. They take the companies from them, and charity can get some money, just a drop from the ocean. It's not even enough to pay their wages sometimes. There's a lot of scams now going on, and fraud, intellectual thefts and hijack, just to balance, because there's money going in fast rate and high quantity to the rich, and protectionism come, and confiscation and things. How Islam addresses that? Now the zakah, if you want to collect the zakah, this is what Abu Bakr did, and Umar and Osman. Now they get 2.5% zakah from the people, or 5 if they have crops, or 10 if they have crops not watered, or 20 if you find treasure. But at least 2.5%. They started something called Baytul Mal. So if you have the income of the world now, it's $352 trillion a year, 25 trillion on the USA. So if that pays zakah a year, you will have at least 7 to 8 trillion coming, 2.5% from the 350 trillion. So imagine the house, Baytul Mal, the house of money, or the house of fund. That would be enough to abolish all the United Nations and all the IMF and all the central banks and the banks, and you go to the house of money. So you're circulating the money. Don't print new money. You don't need to print money from nothing, because there's the house of money full of money. And this is how Umar ibn Khattab managed to get pay the elderly pension, and he paid the child benefit. And he managed to pay for the armies defending, and they started building the infrastructure, and followed by Uthman, and followed by Ali ibn Abi Talib, and carried on until Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. The time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, there were no poverty at all. They killed the poverty. Even they started feeding animals with the grain and things. They even gave money to the Christian and Jew to get married or have a business, and became quite super rich. This is why nations handed over their leadership to the Muslims quite easily, because those who were fighting the Muslims, both who were in charge of the money and leadership, but the general public were suffering everywhere. So when they saw the generosity of Muslim and the money is coming back to them, because the Prophet ﷺ teaching take money from their rich and give it to their poor. Wherever you go, you take you don't send it to central government. In spite of that, a lot left over and sent to the central government. But they were like ordered, take the zakah from the rich, give it to the poor. You're recycling the money every year. So the 2.5% government now, they can't take the zakah from people, so they invented this monetary policy, and they start printing money, providing it doesn't go above 2.5%, because it will create inflation. And this is what happened when the corona came, and they had to give people money for nothing, a lot of money, 7 trillion in America, 3 in Britain, 5 in Europe. And there's money came without any work. And it wasn't recycled money, it was created money from nothing, pushed inflation to 15% and 7 and 8 and 9, difficult to bring it down. While Islam will take from the rich, give it to the poor, there's no new money created. It's the same money recycled. And the value of the money will remain as it is. I produced this presentation to collection of churches. They have a meeting in Pulsar Common. And they said, oh, you can't force the zakah. How are you going to force the zakah? I said, I don't force the zakah. Like people who came anti-disarmament and they were opposing the nuclear arson, they succeeded because there's too many of them. When they started calling to abandon the fossil fuels, there's a lot of them. And they are trying to protect the environment and things, and protect the animals. I remember when I came to Britain in the 80s, a lot of ladies used to wear fur. And then they were a group to protect the animals, started chasing these ladies and painting their fur with paint. So the coat which they used to buy for £3,000-4,000 became useless. And they managed to stop it. So the power of the people, if you sell this to people who are mainly waged, mainly living on pension, or mainly living on income support and things, they will be more than willing to take this. It's not going to be easy. You need so many people to actually get convinced that when you apply zakah, or the system of zakah, I don't have to call it zakah, but it's the 2.5%, subhanAllah, it's important, because every year you need more money to come, and we need to carry on supporting education and policing and social care and defense and infrastructure and economy, and you protect those businesses going to bankrupt and losing out, so protect economy which you don't want to disappear and things. So this is, and the bank, actually this guy here, McDonald, when he was talking with Jeremy, the head of the Labour Party, they lost the election, but he was thinking of changing the system from income tax to tax on wealth. Instead of taxing the income, taxing the wealth. But obviously he couldn't sell the idea, although he's Labour, couldn't sell the idea. But if you use the money from the Islamic house, the money house, or the fund house, to create economy, plant more things and produce more crops, more animals, more services, it's worth you get. But the people want to borrow the money just to go and spend it on holidays and drinking and gambling and watching TV, producing nothing, you don't lend them. The banks now don't care. They will lend you to go on a cruise holiday, £20,000, providing you can pay back. But all that's gone to nothing. Islam will not allow this. The money have to be used for positive production and things. This is how we sell zakat to people as an alternative economical system to the world. And if they don't do that, the country who have the upper hand and have the reserve ability, they are still above the water. Countries who don't have this reserve ability, the minute they produce more money with no cover for it, they're not exporting nothing. The value of their money drops and keep dropping. Within 1 month, the value of the Syrian pound dropped by 60%. First time we went to Turkey around 6-7 years ago, we exchanged the pound for 4 lira. Now the pound will buy 34 lira. Egypt, we went to Egypt in 2013, and we exchanged the pound for 10 Egyptian pound. Now it's 40 Egyptian pound. So the government printing money, but have no resources. They don't export. They don't have the privilege of having, the power to force people to buy. Like they're forcing people to buy petrol in dollar. So always there's demand on the dollar, and the dollar value remained high. So this is the way we thought that we might be able to, if we teach Muslims the intellectual jihad this way, I think we might get somewhere, might reach something. This is my short presentation. I'm sorry I couldn't get the video. Make the dua and close. See you next week, inshallah. The title will be, there's no day of judgment. Once you're dead, you're dead. There's no life after death. Okay, assalamu alaikum.